Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Look forward to talking to Vasili Nassar. Vasili, it's great to meet you. I love talking to entrepreneurs. I want to give a quick background on you. You are the creator of Boss Nation Brands, a line of innovative pet products that promote gut health through probiotic and prebiotic nutrition. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you get into the business of keeping pets healthy. I have two dogs. I love them. I grew up with dogs. I love dogs. I love animals. And so take me back to your earliest memory of when some mentor planted a seed that you knew it would somehow get you to where you are today.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, let me answer the question this way. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built a couple of global brands in the last 25 years. But previous to Boss Nation, which is now comprised of two brand pillars, Boss Dog and Boss Cat, I had founded a Greek yogurt company with a couple of other partners driven for the consumer-based market. So we scaled that for about 20 years and were acquired in 2010 by a large natural and organic group. So for 8 years post-acquisition, I was given an opportunity to work with an extensive scientific and regulatory team where we learned how to infuse probiotics in a variety of different mediums, be it dairy, plant-based, soups. So for 8 years, we scaled our division, which consisted of our former Greek yogurt and a variety of other new add-ons and extensions to about $1.5 billion in sales. And then I decided that it was enough working for the man again, and I handpicked about 4 or 5 of my top people. And in late 2018, we innovated and launched Boss Dog brand initially.
Yeah.
And, the idea was to introduce a concept that we felt would be great for pets, and that also we had an extensive background and credibility to speak to. And so it really flowed very easily for us. And given the fact that my strategy was a multiple segment entry, I wanted to come out with something we could really make a lot of noise with. And that was our Greek style frozen yogurt treat. So yeah.
All right, good. I love that. So let's rewind a little bit because you're talking a little bit about your history. I was going to get into that, but let's dive into that for a moment. So, you're part of a bakery that ends up supplying Starbucks their baked goods, making the bakery an overnight success. And you talked a little bit about the Greek yogurt business. What makes an entrepreneur?
Well, I think oftentimes for me, it was just an opportunity of working with other people and having a different way of looking at either go-to-market strategy or just brand building in general. So I think like a lot of other entrepreneurs, I cut my teeth on the factory floor, running blending systems and learning how to drive forklifts and doing all that stuff, And so it wasn't really into my early 20s that an opportunity did present itself. And I think, the difference between an entrepreneur and those that aren't are those that exercise the option to take advantage of the opportunity. And that's what I did. And then I got so accustomed to the lifestyle that I don't think I can go back to private sector.
Yeah, but let's talk about that, looking at things differently, because you're part of a bakery that starts supplying Starbucks. Starbucks looks at things, really in a transcending way. They were a quote unquote coffee company up into the mid '80s. So Howard Schultz took them over, or I shouldn't say took them over, but kind of led them. And they then decided, hey, we're not going to be a coffee shop. We're going to be the third destination. We're going to transcend and create a market and be the third destination between home and office, which is why Starbucks went from building 1 a year to, 12 to 1,600, give or take a year. And so they kind of created that market. And so when you talk about, thinking differently, right? So that's, you've worked with a lot of brands, you've built a lot of brands that think differently. How should an entrepreneur, how do they think differently? How do they trust their instincts that different is good?
Well, I think it starts a lot with just the basics. For me, it's always been quality in the cup, quality in the container. So you have to start with a product that's going to resonate well amongst a large demographic. That's the first place.
Make sure people will buy it.
Yeah. And then, secondarily, you have to invest in both the retailer and the consumer. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs fall short.
Yeah.
Stick a UPC on it, Uncle Joe's barbecue sauce, go to market, and that's it. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to build a brand, you have to invest in the gatekeeper. And any brand that's worth its salt has grassroots systems in place to invest in the gatekeeper and get retailers and consumers to drive trial. And really, that's, I think, the one way that I've always looked at brand building. It's very much hands-on.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, in today's world, and I'm going to say post-COVID world, even though COVID is going on, but in a post-COVID world, how do you look at brand building? Because I think consumer behavior, consumer attention spans have changed over the last year and a half, and it's in a very significant way. One being that people who never would use e-commerce and buy online do. One in which I think attention spans are, statistically less than a goldfish, but I think even more less now since post-COVID. An article in 2008 in The Atlantic named "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" pointed to Google and to other technologies as changing the way that we are wired from instant gratification, putting away delayed gratification, and we all want instant gratification. And so I think keeping the brand top of mind is actually harder today than it was a year and a half ago.
Very much so.
Right. So how do you pivot?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the word that I would have used. Here, I would do a disservice to this answer if I didn't preface it by saying no startup should have to run headfirst into a global pandemic. And there are several pet food concerns I know that started in early 19 that are no longer here. They couldn't get a listing. Supply chain was hindered, and there's nothing worse for a startup than to have to work a curbside retail consumer. Okay. Right. So, I mean, I'm, somewhat old school in that I've always believed in carrying the bag. Now you make a mention that, is somewhat changed and the attention span has altered. And I think it's quite a bit harder to build a brand today than it was 20 years ago. So, we've done, I think I said it earlier, spoon to mouth marketing, where I focus heavily on either interacting directly with the consumer and now today with the pet. Yeah. In really driving trial and brand awareness, spoon to mouth. And you can still do it. There are businesses are opening again. Where you can't do it, you have to find creative campaigns where you can drive incremental offers at retail. Consumers still want value when they go to store, but it's getting the outreach. And I'll just close in saying that it's the pet specialty channel. So it's all up and down the street, one store, two stores. So you can only do so much, as you're building your brand out. Yeah.
So let's talk about being creative. Your website is fun. It's creative. It's got a lot of character. It's got when you think of creative, right? I think some people who may be listening to this, they'll say to themselves, I don't have any. People I coach will say to me, whether it's a CEO, a manager, a salesperson, an owner of a company, I don't have any creativeness in me. Right. So what do you say to that person?
I say you probably shouldn't be on the marketing and innovation team. I mean, look, our industry is somewhat unique in that everyone's trying to figure out how to romance protein. Mm-hmm. You're all confined within the parameters of the AFCO guidelines. So to be able to find a value add point, you have to be creative and innovative. And our angle, as you very accurately stated in the beginning, is we are the leader in digestive health solutions where we can qualify quantity and quantity at the end of shelf life. And that comes from my background in really understanding why certain levels of probiotics are important in human food and how that translates to pets.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good.
This is John. This is really quite an undertaking. This project, as you're going through that, this was a 12 segment entry in 30 months. So we innovated every segment of the store in under 3 years with highly innovative concepts. It's never been done before, from what I've heard, and I know we're being touted as the fastest double brand pillar in pet specialty in terms of growth.
So how'd you do it?
Well, we've got a great team. I've got a lady who's been with me for over 15 years that understands our mechanics. I was very fortunate to have 2 pet pros who were in semi-retirement that liked my background and the vision moving forward and decided to pull out of retirement. These guys combined are over 60 years in pet experience. So they came onto the team about a year and a half ago, and it's still very much a relationship-based industry, pet, whereas CPG is very much largely data-driven these days.
Yeah.
You have 4 feet of space. What are you going to do for me? And pet is still very much hands-on.
Yeah. So let's talk about the discipline of doing what you've done and how you as an entrepreneur structure yourself, how you run your day. Because somebody like you, to do what you've done, you've got to be disciplined, you've got to be organized, you've got to be structured. As a business coach, I keynote and teach a lot and group train a lot on time management. And what I talk about is in the training is you can get 3 years worth of work done in a year if you know how to maximize your time and really be efficient. So someone who's done what you've done, how do you do it?
Well, it's funny because I was just telling my daughter, who's 13, here the other day, I had an old Toshiba laptop that I used to build the last company, which is far bigger than the one that I'm running today. And I made use of it, and now I got 3 monitors I'm sitting in front of today. And you got to find your efficiencies. For me, it's understanding multiple departments well. Everybody on my team carries many hats. And then, I did have some influence over the years. My mother worked 52 years, never missed a day at work. That's no joke. She's one of those that just pulled up and went in every day. So I think that had something. And then you mentioned Howard Schultz. I grew up in Seattle. I've read most of his books, very inspirational. And then Lee Iacocca, who I actually had an opportunity to meet just prior to him passing, had the discipline of prepping Sunday night for the following week. And I still do that today. I'll come in every Sunday night. I'll go through my to-do list and executables, and Monday morning we're ready to go. But if you're not organized in this game, you get buried pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about you used your Toshiba. This is a picture of my brother and I started an internet company in 1995. We then sold it in 1997. But growing up, this was our first computer. Our dad built this Heathkit computer. This was our first computer. And so when I think about when you said that, it made me think of it because I think a recent stat that I heard that kind of blew me away is, and when I tell people this, it kind of blows them away. The difference between 1980 and 2021 is the same as 1980 to 1939. So the same time frame from 1939 to 1980 is the same from 1980 to 2021. And so when you think about how the world changed from 1939 to 1980 and how much the world changed from 1980 to 2021 and where the world is going to change just in this next decade, as they look at pre-COVID studies that pointed to that 85% of the jobs that exist by 2030 do not exist today, which means we're going to see major change and major technology change that's going to catapult it probably in the later years. Mm-hmm. So when you as an entrepreneur look forward, what do you see the pace and the cadence and the ideas? How are you seeing yourself evolve as you raise your level of consciousness about yourself and your business?
I'm not by any means that complicated, John, but I think I know what you're saying. We're in the pet industry. People will always have pets.
Yeah.
So, some will say it's recession proof. Did I look at this industry specifically for that? No, it wasn't my emphasis. I have now 4 dogs, 2 cats, and a 140-pound rescue tortoise. We love animals, and so
Yeah.
that's where the inspiration came. And then as I got into it, I said, hey, babies and pets, consumers pay premiums for, and we're seeing the premiumization of the pet specialty market as it is today. Kibble and Bits is out. People are feeding raw frozen. They understand the benefits of raw concepts. And then if you value add like we do, you get an additional benefit. But you're spot on in that you have to be able to pivot as the world changes. And we're always looking at the next concept, and you're always trying to cover your flank because beyond the consumer modifications, you always have competitive pressure. And if you're doing something right, somebody else wants to do it as well. So,
yeah, I love it. Tell me this. I want to just go back to your mom for a second. She never missed a day in 52 years.
One job too, one employer.
Unbelievable. A couple key lessons she taught you.
My mom is a very simple Greek lady, not simple in the Mendel sense, just simple in that life shouldn't be too complicated. Don't get worried about it because it doesn't help. Don't make excuses, and that's just the way we were raised. It was, we were loved, but we weren't coddled. And I try to do the same to my kids. My son is a graduate of university. He's off into M&A. My daughter is very active, and I think as parents, if you want to create strong and active contributors to society, you have to invest in them at a certain level. And I know both my mother and father invested in me.
Yeah, I love that. All right, quick speed round. You ready?
Sure.
All right. You're an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. You've started, you've sold global brands. You seem to have great just gut instincts as well. Favorite book you've ever read and why?
Well, I brought it up earlier. Iacocca's book, his autobiography.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just very inspirational.
Yeah. One piece of that book that sticks out to you, or one piece of advice when you connected with him.
If you're at work, be working. If you're having fun, have fun.
Yeah.
And so if I think Zig Ziglar also said it. If you're going to go hang around with the sales crowd, don't expect much. Be the standout, and work. If you're at work.
Yeah, I love it. Finish this sentence. One thing every entrepreneur needs to do more of is
prepare for the financial gap that will crush you if you can't fill it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you need, in order to keep the business, you got to have the cash flow going.
Yeah, because if you're doing it right, you'll grow yourself out of business.
Yeah, I love that. One thing you've learned about yourself this past year and a half.
I don't know that I have it in me to build a brand from ground up again.
I would beg to differ. I think you got it in you. I
didn't expect the pandemic. That's really, that's, you lose the personal touch. Everything is like this, and I'm still we're getting up in front of the team.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Tell everybody where they can buy your products, connect with you, and learn more about the company.
We're in over 4,000 rooftops in North America, and even sold abroad now: Singapore, Hong Kong, China. You can find us at any pet specialty retail store. Very simple. Go to bossnationbrands.com or bossdogbrand.com or bosscatbrand.com and go to the store locator, type in your zip code, and it'll promptly pop up all the available stores in your area. If there isn't an item there that you need, just request it, and then we work together with our internal team to get a position for you.
That's great. Vasili, I appreciate your the way that you approach things, the entrepreneurial spirit, the grit that just comes out of everything, that you say, work hard, play hard. When you're at work, when you're not, have fun. I appreciate you taking time to be on the show today. Think community, bossnationbrands.com. And if you have a pet, check it out. I'm going to be checking it out myself. I have 2 dogs. Appreciate you being on the show, and thanks a ton. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.